I'm gonna prove to you that you've been sleepwalking. Joel. Joel? Babe. Hey. Babe. Joel. Joel. Hey, hey. Babe. Hey, it's okay, it's okay. You're okay. You've just been sleepwalking. Babe. Babe, you're okay. Hey, hey. Hey, it's okay.
Welcome back, horror fans, DBS fans, and anyone trying to make a film. We are back with another script-to-screen episode. Today, we are going to go over making a mockumentary. That's right, our 20th movie was a found footage mockumentary, and it was quite an experience. And today, I have Andrew and Madison, the stars, the leads in that movie, and we're going to kind of go over how we created this movie and basically how it's different from a cinematic movie and the found footage style that we usually do. And why I think new filmmakers should take a shot at making a mockumentary. It's a really cool process. It was actually pretty easy, but as long as you have a really solid script and a really solid idea, two great stars like Madison and Andrew, I think you guys are off to a good start. And it's another film that you can keep in your arsenal. So we'll start off with Madison. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. This is your first time on a podcast with us. Madison did Devil's Hostage, and then immediately 6 weeks later, she got cast in the working title for our Alien mockumentary. So, Madison, let's go over just a little bit on, working with DBS for the first time with Devil's Hostage, and then basically getting another offer to work with us again 6 weeks later.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be on here. You couldn't get rid of me with that second movie. I just had to come back to the DBS family. And I had an incredible experience on both of the sets. Everyone immediately was so welcoming and we all got along so well. Andrew was also in Devil's Hostage with me. So I already knew him from Devil's Hostage going into this new found footage mockumentary. So that was something that was really fun about that. I was excited to get an email back from you, Brendan, because I loved working with you guys and I think your work is incredible and it's so inspiring how you do amazing work with such a small team and you guys are just so focused and so driven. And I was like, any opportunity to work with you guys again, 100% I'm all in. And you guys are just so fun to hang out with. So that's also a plus. I feel like we all just became closer when we started working together.
And I mean, that's one thing with this one, because we, like, honestly, when we started thinking about this, this concept, getting this concept done, we were shooting Devil's Hostage. Basically, I was thinking about making this mockumentary. My problem was I had nobody to sell it to. And then while we were doing Devil's Hostage, Last Cabin was kind of being released. And we woke up one day, and I don't know if it was after our Reddit AMA or what really happened, but we woke up and it was a top 1,000 movie on IMDb. And for you guys who don't know about IMDb, top 1,000 is all the movies ever made, the rankings for them. An indie movie like ours has no right being in the top 1,000. And that was kind of crazy. And so I was pitching this movie for a while. I didn't have a lot of buyers. Nobody really knew what a mockumentary was. That kind of changed everything because I got a lot of emails and a lot of phone calls while we were on set saying, hey, do you have another found footage movie for me? We'll take your stuff. Give us another found footage movie after seeing the success of Last Cabin. Basically we want anything that you guys are going to make. The problem was I had no found footage movie. I was done. I'm still done with found footage for just a little bit. So I was like, hey, what about a mockumentary? Could we do something that's like cinematic and, found footage style? And thank God for us, Strange Harvest is now in theaters, and I think it just left theaters. It's a mockumentary, and it's done pretty well. So I had something to pitch. We had a comparable, and we kind of got the wheels rolling. Now I needed two people that I was comfortable with. Andrew Thomas, as always, has been in everything. If I need somebody, I get Andrew to come in there. If you guys listen to our podcast about the Devil's Hostage, we brought him in pretty much last minute, or like, because basically I need somebody who could, fill out this role, and he did a great job, and it was just perfect moving on. So Andrew, what was it like when you got the email from us saying, hey, we got 4 weeks, let's make an alien mockumentary? What were your thoughts on that?
It was funny because I feel like that these past two movies, I'm like, it was like a fluke that I was even in them. Like, because obviously the first one was last minute, and then this one was like, I was like, for the longest time, like, I'm done with found footage, man. After Devil's Hostage, it was like, no more, at least for a while. And then you talking about this one, I was like,
And that's so funny because I've actually never done found footage before until this one. So that was something that made me excited about this mockumentary because I've never done it. So I was like, ooh, a new experience and a new...
What was cool about this one too, though, is like what made me interested is because it was very different from the usual DBS mockumentary style found footage movies. Because the ones that I've done with them, it's like they're basically cinematic movies filmed from the POV of a cameraman. That's kind of how they're filmed. You don't really get that much shaky cam, and it's a bit more polished in terms of just the found footage style. But what's cool about this one was when I knew like we would be the ones behind the camera, and it was all from the POV of a cell phone, and like there was no lighting, there was no one was mic'd up, it was all just raw, authentic stuff, and like no script, basically no dialogue. Like even the other found footage movies, there was a script with dialogue, and this one was just fully just as found footage as you can get, I guess.
Which made it even more fun. I loved being able to use our phones and just improv and do what felt natural to us in our characters.
Yeah, and if you guys have seen, like, a lot of our found footage style is cinematic found footage. We have music in our stuff. It is just straight POV style, which is like the more popular stuff, because we still bring in the cinematic audience to the found footage genre, and the found footage genre still does very well for us. There is a very niche market of found footage that just want something authentic. They want something super realistic. They want no music. They want basically limited editing. They want someone's cell phone on the ground that someone found and made it a movie. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but this is a niche that exists. It's very strong. Those people are very passionate. And they always kind of like, why do you have music in your movies? Like, why does it look perfectly edited? Why do we have these glitches and stuff? I wanted to give them something, and this is the opportunity, because this one, like they just said, is basically it's like somebody recovering footage. So a mockumentary, for you guys who don't know, it's a subgenre of found footage. It's basically something like Lake Mungo, Savage Land, Howard's Mill. It's a fake documentary, all right? So it's like they're talking heads. Probably about 60 or 7% of the movie is talking heads. The rest of it is recovered footage or the actual found footage stuff. So it's honestly like making two movies. On one hand, I had to work with the actors who were the talking heads. On the other hand, I had to work with Andrew and Madison, who were the leads, right? I needed people I could trust. I've worked with Andrew multiple times. We keep bringing him back. And I had such a good experience with Madison on Devil's Hostage. And with my experience with actors, the second time was much better. So I had to hop on a call with Madison to make sure she understood like what was going to happen when I'm giving her the script. Because in the 6 weeks I wrote, this script was like 120 pages. It's the biggest script that we've had before. And I really enjoyed writing it because when I write my books for the publishing company, I'm a pantser. I just write and then I edit it down. With movies, it's the opposite. We start very small. And then we have to fill in the blanks and get us up to the 90-page limits. With this one, I just threw out a whole bunch of stuff. I just had all these ideas. There's different plot lines and everything. And I gave it to them. And if you're an actor and you're reading something that's 120 pages and I'm saying, hey, we're going to shoot in basically a month, they're going to have a panic attack. So I was like, hey, Madison, listen, don't worry about the script. Just try and get the character down and we'll go from there. So what were your thoughts, Madison, on our first meeting and kind of going over this character? I can't remember the character. What your name was? Was it Rachel?
Rachel.
Yeah. So we just have so many movies and characters going on.
No, definitely.
What was your thoughts when you first started to look at the script and then we started to meet for the first time just on this character?
Well, honestly, when I first got the script, I was pretty confused because because I was like, whoa, this is it, yeah, you're right. It was a lot to look at first, and I was like, whoa, okay, now I just need to like focus on character, like you said first, and worry about the lines later, because I knew going into this that it was found footage, that, and because of what you told me, that it would be a lot of improv and it would be a lot of unscripted words that we were going to be saying depending on what situations we ended up filming. So I was like, I'm just gonna focus on my character and worry about the lines after, because things might change. And I know you said that too, like things might change. So we just tackled character, and a big thing for us is that we wanted to work on the relationship a lot, because both of our characters are in a relationship in this. And to make that feel authentic, we really had to dig deep into our backstory. So we created like a whole itinerary and timeline of like the first time we met, what that day looked like, literally not hour by hour, but pretty close to hour by hour.
Yeah.
And we just figured out the dynamics of our two characters and why they're in a relationship. And that helped a lot going into doing these improv scenes, because we really just knew what their relationship was like and how we were individually, because we also did a ton of character work on our own and backstories and everything that we would do with a normal character, but even deeper, I would say, because we're creating it from the ground up. Because there also wasn't a ton of character descriptions either that we got.
For the mockumentary, I did not want you guys to have a lot of direction. I did not want to have a lot of script stuff in there. I did not want to have, be like, usually we're like, all right, here's the script, here's the characters. You guys have to, find this character in this script.
Yeah.
I wanted the opposite of this one. So, can you guys a little bit talk about, there's very loose guidelines on this one. The dialogue was just a placeholder to try and get where we needed to go as far as like the character stuff, but really kind of go into it, because I think that, when you guys met for the first time, to have your own meeting, because you're both in Atlanta, talk to me a little bit about how you guys went through those characters and like what you were focusing on, because you knew there's nothing really to help you in the script too much, and there wasn't a lot of dialogue to help you out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I first want to, I'm like very, because obviously you could have, like, if I did this movie with a stranger, it could have, worked out. It would have been fine. But I think like I was very fortunate to have Madison back, because the first thing we kind of connected over in Devil's Hostage, when we met for the first time, was like, well, at least I noticed that she kind of had the same passion and care about character moments and motivations and stuff like that, and character development, I guess. Because as you know, Brendan, I obsess over that stuff all the time. So knowing that going into this one, I felt way more confident and comfortable with her, that we could figure it out. And the fact we already worked together, like we could do the scenes and be totally comfortable, like there was less hoops that we had to kind of dive through to get to that point, because we already worked together and we both kind of have a similar eye for like character development. So honestly, it was a lot of fun, like figuring out who these people were. And I guess the only tricky part was we had to do all this stuff after talking head stuff was already written, right? And trying to match all that stuff as best as we possibly could.
That was another thing that was interesting about the making of this mockumentary, is that we didn't know what the talking heads were saying about us. So we kind of were just creating all of these moments that would happen in a relationship and moments that would happen, in the story. I don't want to spoil anything, and what would happen in this scenario. So that was actually so fun, because we just kind of got to make things up as we went. And that's...
Yeah, for the mockumentary, I think it added a little bit of realism, just because the talking heads are talking after. So basically, the story is about Madison and Andrew's characters disappearing, and the talking heads are talking about them, like giving the history, like it's a straight documentary. And really, we kept the talking heads away from these. It's almost like making two movies. We had the talking heads who I had to work with, and I had, we have Andrew and Madison. And one of the reasons I chose them was because I needed people I couldn't babysit. They had to go and figure this stuff out themselves. Like, we'd meet weekly. I had given guidance. I was hoping that I wrote a good enough script where they understood like what we were trying to get out of this. But I had to focus on talking heads. The talking heads were the actors that, we really kind of had to focus on. They had to say specific things because they're driving the plot forward, where Madison and Andrew stuff is the filler. It's like when the talking heads are talking, we show video clips and pictures and stuff like that. So my focus was on them. And they were also like the, not as seasoned actors, they're DBS actors I've worked with before. They're really, really good, but really had to lock them in, because if they didn't say that stuff right, then our timeline kind of gets a little messed up. So one thing I want to talk to you, Andrew, about is we had to do a lot of red herrings. It's basically a disappearance, and it could be a stalker, it could be paranormal stuff, it could be aliens, it could be Andrew basically chopped up Madison's character, and that's really kind of where we wanted to go with it. The true crime documentaries are very popular. That's really what we're trying to get with this one. We want something that our audience will watch, and I want it to be all the way up into the end where we kind of give a little bit more of a twist to it. But I want the audience to be like, is this real? Are we watching like Making a Murder or like some kind of like story like you see on Netflix? That was the whole goal and the intention of making a mockumentary. The more realistic it is, the better it's going to sell. And so, Andrew, I want to talk to you a bit about bringing up the red herring, because that is what's going to drive the first act of this movie. This is a typical story of two people get together, they burn really hot in a new relationship, and there's red flags, but they ignore them, and then the girl goes missing. Well, in this case, both of them go missing. But the media is going to go for the guy, obviously. So we wanted to build that up, but at the same time, we didn't want you to be this huge douchebag. So how did you kind of go along with that and kind of build that character up, giving us the red herring that we needed?
Well, I think what we kind of figured out, we had to try kind of strike a balance of like, it had to be enough of a red herring to get the people to wonder, but it couldn't be too crazy that would take you out of the movie, take you out of the realism, I guess, because if you're trying to present this as a real documentary, and that's what you want people to think when they watch it, like, you kind of have to try to stay away from like movie stuff, like cinematic ideas and stuff that can be more exaggerated and crazier. So we couldn't just automatically make me just the biggest asshole in the world, because like then almost people can like sense the red herring a mile away too. Like, you don't want to make them think it's a red herring immediately. And so we had to think of like practical reasons why he would, invite her to move, 4 states away with him and live with him in his deceased parents' house.
It's more than 4. Probably like 7.
Oh yeah. And like, why would she say yes if she's like this like young aspiring actress, who like has everything in Boston? Why would she move when they just met? And we had to still make it realistic enough where people can be like, okay, I can see why she would do that, but it's still kind of sketch. Like, you didn't want to beat them over the head with just sketchiness right off the bat. So you had to figure out ways to do it in subtle ways that can just make it questionable enough,
And so Madison, you kind of had the same thing, because it was like in the story, Madison's character basically has everything going for her. She gets into, a master's program or a art school that she really wanted to, because I needed something that would really kind of be a red flag of like why she would go down and give up a lot. She had to give up something to move down there. So, I mean, Madison, we give you the same question. We had to bring up the red flags. You have to bring up, this character is doing something that, on the outside, basically the audience would be like, why is she doing that? That doesn't make a lot of sense. But you had to make it relatable. That was your job, because it has to be like, how does she do this and make it work without it being that's just a dumb decision, especially when you know what's going to happen, because that's going to be the whole documentary is they're missing. So it's like, oh, well, she shouldn't have done that. So how did you kind of do that and kind of flesh it out to make it just a little bit less of or make it make sense, at least from your character's perspective?
Yeah, for me, any character has to have a reason for doing what they do. And I think this is for all actors. I think they feel the same way. It's like we need to figure out why our characters are making this decision. And if we have to go as far back as their childhood to figure out what happened to them when they were a child that would make them make these decisions as an adult. I mean, trauma is real, and this goes into movie characters as well, and characters that we're building for roles. And for Rachel, because we were going so far back into our character's life story, like I did build her up from childhood to now. And a big part of my character development for her is what relationship trauma or parental trauma has she gone through in the past that kind of makes her a little bit more susceptible to potentially maybe dating someone who has some red flags that she ignores or has things about them that, has things about them that makes them not the best partner. So that's an approach that I take with when I'm building any character, and specifically for Rachel, that's what I did. I wrote out specific scenarios of things that happened when she was in past relationships or happened with her parents or loved ones that kind of made her in a little bit of a more vulnerable state to maybe attract someone who was a red flag.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, because I have seen a little bit of the cut, the stuff that keeps this together, and this is another just production thing, we spent a lot of time worrying about this stuff, like the red flags, and does this stuff make sense? You guys come across so genuine in your love for each other in this relationship that happened very, very quickly that it makes sense. And we worried about all this stuff, and I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. It's two people who enter this crazy passionate fling immediately, and they put the blinders on to some other things, which makes the mockumentary, work really, really well. So I think you guys did a really good job with that. So let's go into how you guys did that, which is building your relationship. So go from, I don't even remember how we first started. I know we had some kind of thing in there with how you guys met for the first time. I think it was just like Tinder or like some dating app. And you guys pitched the idea of the bar, which you still haven't filmed yet, but I like that. So start with that one and then kind of go over some of the stuff as you progressed with your relationship. Because again, guys, we have to capture this stuff through cell phone footage. They are filming this stuff, or we're filming them via cameras. All of Rachel and Joel's stuff is shot through a camera or a computer. That's it. It has to be hyper realistic. There has to be a reason for them to be filming this stuff. So how do you guys build up your relationship, your dating profile, all the way through, which is a cell phone?
When we met up to talk about this, we did consider a lot of different scenarios and ways that we would have met. And for me, I do have a filmmaker brain as well. I feel like I thought of a scenario. It's fine. I thought of a scenario and I pictured it in my head so vividly and so clear. And when I have an idea and I can do that, I'm like, okay, this has to happen now. And that's kind of what I thought with the bar scene. I was like, I pictured a whole entire night of how we met at the bar. He was a bartender. And how my friend was recording me and daring me to go up to him because we kept making eye contact and all these little things that would also incorporate a friend having it on video, because meeting someone for the first time, you're not just recording on your phone, there has to be a reason that someone maybe captured us right on video. And I thought, well, maybe I'm out with my friend who's recording. And I mean, being a girl in your 20s, you do record your friends when you're out all the time. So I think that was just a no-brainer for me for how we met.
Yeah, and also just the idea of just the whole show don't tell kind of thing. I would rather have actual video proof of us meeting instead of just one of the talking heads saying, "Oh, they met on a dating app."
Right. Or dating apps can
or putting a picture of my Tinder
I know.
profile, which I know you guys would have put the worst freaking pictures on
You
there.
would have put that IMDb picture on.
No, please, God.
No, it's a great idea. I mean, that's like something where I was like, okay, I hired these guys for a reason, because they have good ideas. Because I don't know how, like, that was the whole thing. It's like, all right, like, what footage do you use on your phone to tell this story? I don't use my phone a lot. I'm not going around taking pictures and stuff. I'm not a very big social media person. We're on the TikTok, and that's it. And that's just using other people's stuff. Like that. So, I was like, one thing that I was concerned with was like, do we get enough footage of them? So I was like, you guys have to come up with things that you're going to do. So we have the bar scene. And then what were the ideas flowing to progress your relationship that you guys started to think about?
There's one thing that comes to my mind, but I don't know if that is something that would give away plots of the...
Or they're like, by the time it comes out, we'll be fine.
Okay. So another thing that I think Andrew came up with this idea, but he said to me, he's like, there has to be like one thing about our relationship that we can always go back to, like something that our characters always do together, or like a shared event, or like a shared like of something.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was you who said stargazing would be a good thing that our characters can continue to do throughout their relationship, that just can make them like reminisce about the first night that they met, which we thought would be good. I mean, not the first night. When do we stargaze?
It was like the second date.
Oh yeah, the second date.
Then we bring it up in the pivotal scene at the park bench.
Right.
Because
the stargazing will come. Sorry.
Yeah, No, yeah, you were talking first. Go ahead.
No, the stargazing, we wanted it to come out throughout the movie.
It was a callback. It was a good callback.
Yes, that's what I was thinking of, the word.
So when we had to go and how we filmed this, again, like this was like two different movies. We had the Talking Heads, which I was working on, before they came down. They came down to Orlando, Florida. Yeah. We had to basically figure out how do we like show all the relationship stuff up until, or just get as much as you possibly can. So let's talk about when we went out and went to all these different bars, and they had brought all their outfits. And you go to a bar and they go change. You go to a bar and you go change. And you go to a bar, because I had to show the progression of them dating. Because the Talking Heads are like, yeah, they dated for a while. I have to show that footage. So talk about how that was and how it was kind of a unique situation, because we were like filming you. I'm trying to remember. We just went to one bar. We got a drink, had them do some stuff, and then moved on to another bar, and they had to change outfits. And we did this for like 7 or 8 bars. But let's talk about that, because I thought it was unique. And I think we had Dylan Tagging with us, and they're like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I don't know. Like, whatever we can use. We had them playing pool for, I think, the first one. So talk a little bit about that. And I think it started a little bit awkward, and like no one really knew what to do. And then we kind of settled into it as the drinks started flowing a little bit. But for the most part, what was your mindset in that, and kind of how did you handle that?
Yeah, before we even got to the bars, even at the airport, we were just schlepping. Like my bag was, I swear, heavier than I weigh, like as a person. And we just had to bring so many clothes because we had to make it believable that this couple has been together for like, 6 months to a year. So I brought everything I could possibly fit in my bag. And it is very interesting to carry suitcases with you into bars, and people look at you on Friday night walking around with like suitcases.
I mean, it was kind of a genius idea though.
Yeah.
Looking back.
It is.
To get as many like days you possibly can in one night while you're out,
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have like a trailer to go back to.
Yeah.
It's just funny. But yeah, I mean, that night was fun, because I think it was a good idea for that to be like one of our first things, just to kind of throw us into it.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to like be awkward and figure out things at the house first, or did we do that first?
Well, we did. Yeah, we did.
Oh,
Did a little bit, like
just the night before, or like, yeah.
But it's just funny. Like, I always go back to found footage acting being the strangest acting ever. It's just so weird. Throw in the mix of like you're out now in public at a bar, and your director is filming us as a couple with strangers from a cell phone,
Yeah.
and then the recording stops, and then we don't act like that anymore.
Yeah, I think the weirdest one was when we were at that fancy cocktail bar, and it was just like you and Andrew and I,
It was like a weird third
and we
wheel.
had to change in the bathroom, and this place was like pretty fancy, and it just felt a little odd. I don't know. And then I don't know.
I mean, what you do is interesting. So before we move on, because I think this is something kind of interesting to kind of bring up, Andrew, because you've been in a cinematic movie, you've been in a found footage movie, now you've been in a mockumentary.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me like a breakdown of those styles? Because I think that all three of those are different, especially just for me. A cinematic, I'm looking for just little snippets of what the actors are trying to say, so I could basically edit in my head. So I'm like, all right, they could mess up this entire 1 minute monologue. As long as I get the little piece that I need, I'm good. With found footage, I got to get the best. So both people have to be on it all the way through. And then for this one, I did not want to give any direction at all, because I wanted to honestly find this footage like it would actually be a real documentary. I was looking, like, making sure they were doing things that we needed them to do, but really, I mean, Dylan and Tegan were just recording them, and I was just sitting there, and then I just checked the footage. And it was also really weird because they just run up to me and be like, "Here's the phone. Is this good?" I'm like, "Yeah," but I really wanted to stay like a fly on the wall in this one, because the more that I give them as far as like direction and input, it's going to be fake. We're breaking that. So Andrew, just quickly, let's go over like the different styles and how that stuff kind of relates to, cinematic to found footage to this, which was just a whole nother beast.
Yeah, I mean, cinematic, obviously, it's definitely more like mechanical at times. You're a bit more restricted because you got to get different angles and you got to push in and everything. And like unless something is like a oneer or just a wide shot, you kind of have to like remember your marks. You have to do things over and over again. And the way you can act can be a bit more grandiose in cinematic because it's, it lends itself to that. And then you go to found footage, and the moment you start acting like you're in a cinematic movie, it's weird as hell. Like if there's one person in that found footage who is acting like they're in a cinematic movie, it just throws everything off. And like, so you have to forget all about that. Like you can't even like, you're not worried about where the camera is. You're not really hitting marks. There's one light basically, and you're just moving in the space freely, and just hoping that the person behind the camera can capture it. But you're still, at least in our situation, we still had dialogue. We still had lines that we had to hit. We still had moments in scenes that we had to hit beat wise and have those beats. But this one, we basically had like big plot points that were written out, like explaining to us what we need to do, like for the plot. But everything else in between, we were finding our own moments in the scenes. Like,
Yeah.
we were figuring out the beats. We would spew an idea right before we start recording and just go,
And that was what was really fun. We could think of all these ideas and just execute them immediately.
Yeah, and it's very strange when you're like shooting a scene where it's like super intimate and we have to walk around the house and the whole crew is hiding.
Yeah, the crew was hiding.
Because we can't accidentally get him on camera. So like no one's even watching this happen until we give him the phone back afterwards.
Yeah.
So it's a trip, man. But like it's such a good exercise in not only just improv, but like
Being grounded.
yeah, being grounded and like being subtle.
Yeah, very subtle. And yeah, sorry, I don't mean to.
No, yeah,
Are you
that's
done?
basically it.
Like what he was saying, where it was really cool that the crew was hiding. I want to build up upon that a little bit because it was really cool that I know you said earlier that you didn't have to really like babysit us. And it was cool that we were kind of left alone to do what we thought our characters would do in that moment. Like we weren't getting direction on where to put the camera. I mean, some like scary moments, Brendan got in there and helped us out with how to move the camera and whatever. But most of it was just what we thought we would do and what we do naturally and how we react naturally in a situation that we create.
Yeah, and I think like if you guys are gonna make a mockumentary, I was worried because the amount of pre-production we do is a lot. I have an idea of everything that we're gonna do when I get on set. I have the whole movie mapped out. This one caused me a ton of anxiety because I had nothing mapped out, right? And we had way too much footage, which is a good thing. But if I was to do this again, and I'll use them going downtown as the bars as an example, instead of worrying about, how this is going to come across and what we're going to try and do, I would go back and focus on just trying to get them really cool moments. Like we had one where we were playing beer pong. We had one where we went to the Halloween bar and we got a drunken pumpkin. And, they were taking, they had drinks and they were kind of doing date night stuff. And I think the thing that worked really well was we just kind of walked into a bar and we're like, all right, what's a cool thing we could do? Like they had the photo booth. We were like, go in the photo booth. And having a whole bunch of that stuff and then worrying about how you edit it later is much better than freaking out and being like, all right, are we telling their progression enough? And that's basically what we did. We walked into the bar. If there's a pool table, go play pool. We get them in there. Photo booth, we did that. We did beer pong, and I think we played darts a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you guys are going to make a mockumentary, focus on that kind of stuff as opposed to trying to force it. That's some of our better footage. And use the talking heads, which are the separate people, to tell that story. Kind of like Andrew alluded to before, it's like show, don't tell. The more we can get out of this, and then if we have to steer in the right direction, we use the talking heads to do that. And it worked out a lot better. It's just very bizarre with just, especially our pre-production, how we operate, going from Devil's Hostage, where we had all this pre-production, we worked so hard on these characters, to being like, hey, all right, you guys run around with the camera by yourself, and I'm just going to sit in the corner in the dark and be like, all right, but that looks good. So let's start off that was pretty much the relationship stuff. And the relationship stuff in this movie is basically a whole bunch of montages of dates that they've been on. Now we get them down to the house in Florida where they kind of go disappearing. This is where the mystery starts to happen. Paranormal, weird stuff starts to go on. So, talk to me a little bit about, when you first got to the house, what your character was thinking, what you were thinking for your character, Madison, because it's a new environment for you. We want to make it a little bit of anxiety, but you're also with a person that you kind of trust. What was your character feeling, and what motivations did you have when you first started to see things start to go wrong? Because again, it has to be realistic. You can't be freaking out right away. And also, if I was going home and my doors were open, I'd kind of be a little freaked out. So how did you kind of, once again, walk that tight line of, realism?
Yeah, again, going back to the character development and especially our relationship development, something about Joel's character, Andrew played Joel, is that his parents passed away. And we're going back to his late parents' house. So when we got there, there was sort of this weird air because my character was a little bit uncomfortable with being in his parents' house who had passed away, but also looking forward to this new opportunity and wanting to be there for Joel. And once these weird paranormal things started happening, in my mind, I was like, okay, he is having some sort of, he's having a difficulty dealing with thinking about his parents. It's kind of where my mind was at. And I didn't immediately think of anything paranormal. I was just like, okay, he's going through a lot right now. Like, this is a pretty big move for us, even though for my character, we thought it was going to be temporary at first. Still, it's a big change, and I'm not going to automatically assume that something paranormal is happening, even though spooky things do happen and things that I think are weird, and your personality kind of gets a little bit more aggressive, which I think is also weird, but
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's a good segue into Andrew. It's like we needed to build up the red herring was you. Obviously we wanted to paint the audience that you did it right away. Because that's the mystery of, oh, this should be an open shut case, and it's not. And that's like the spice of like the detective can't figure things out, nothing's really making sense. That is the whole pitch of like this should be an easy open shut case, and all of a sudden the deeper you go down this rabbit hole, the more crazy things start to happen. So what makes it a really good documentary. So we had to kind of build up, Andrew, your descent into madness, I would guess, or just like your kind of loss of reason to give us that kind of red herring. But again, we had to do it in a smart way. You can't just, wake up one day and be, Jack Nicklaus from The Shining. You had to like have this progression. So how did you kind of develop that and kind of work through, slowly displaying more and more red flags until obviously the end where kind of go a little bit off the rails?
Yeah, it kind of was just basically going through it and trying to find moments that would show some sort of, throw up some sort of at least small red flag, like sprinkles of it, basically, but also figure out a reason why we'd be filming that moment,
Right.
So like, we have something where while her and I are talking about like a funny thing that happened at a restaurant, her phone starts buzzing a bunch of times. And then she checks her phone in the video and it's the dude, the stalker is back. And we have a conversation about that because like she didn't tell me he's been talking to me again or something like that, And that's still just all is on camera, because we're just in the moment arguing and then we shut it off.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to find things like that. And then obviously like the trigger, like there's the big event that happens that kind of starts the quick decline into madness. And I think it was mainly just like trying to figure out ways to make the audience think he's going crazy about something when it's not that at all. So like we have the other big thing that happens in the movie. I don't know if we want to talk about it.
You can talk about it. There's no spoilers. It'll be
okay. The baby incident, like that. We try to make it seem like that was the thing that's making him go crazy, because he's having trouble coping. He doesn't know how. Anything to kind of, make the audience go, oh, it was none of that stuff. Actually, it's actually this other thing.
Yeah.
That happened in the woods.
So let me ask you, Andrew, another question, because then I just want to go into the baby thing, because that was something that was really kind of cool that you guys had thought of. Were there any similarities to The House on Haunted Grounds and your descent into madness in that one? Because when I did start pitching this movie, I was like, Andrew Thomas is attached from this because everyone loves that House on Haunted Grounds. Like the transformation that you had in that movie as Mo to essentially killing everybody was very subtle up until it really gets crazy. And it was on my mind as we were going, I was kind of coming up with this idea of, what we're trying to do with this mockumentary. But it was like, I pitched that as you are attached to this project and you're going to get the second time is going to be better. So was there anything in there that you kind of utilized for this one, or is it just a completely different transformation? Because in that one, you were possessed, so it was a little bit more, aggressive.
Yeah, I think the one in that one is a bit more clear, I guess, and I think we kind of want you to think that it's moving towards that direction of like he's slowly getting possessed. I don't think we were trying to like hide that from anyone really. But this one we are trying to hide why he's going crazy, which is tricky. And obviously we did some physical effects like makeup stuff and like just for physical changes in House on Haunted Grounds. I don't think it would have really worked for this one just because the realism quality of it. Like if you do anything too overboard, it's like, okay, that's makeup, So it was just like, it was just trying to find those out of character moments that could happen between us, um, and make it more of a, I guess, psychological breakdown as opposed to um, like Tony, where it was just like physical and he was getting aggressive and stuff like that. It was more of like um, Joel having a hard time. That's his breakdown, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. Like he's scared of something, you know? He's not so aggressive like he wants to kill everyone. It's more like he is paranoid to that extent, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it plays out. It's definitely, I think you brought it up that like this one really needs to be realistic. And I also think that part of the reveal is keeping, you know, what's going on with your character hidden, because it was hidden from, you know, Rachel's character for a while until it started to come out a little more. I think one of the cooler scenes in this movie is the one where Rachel tries to FaceTime her friend and you're just sitting there and you're not really responding and you're kind of despondent. And we did this all on a cell phone as a very creative idea, and it plays really, really well. It's one of my favorite cell phone things, because it's like, oh, there's something wrong with this guy. But it's not weird. There's no makeup or anything. It's just him having a moment where you can tell there's something else on his mind. And I think that kind of thrusts, you know, the Rachel character into being like, yo, there's probably something a little bit wrong with this guy. But I do want to talk about the baby plot line in this movie. One of the big plot keys in this movie is basically they have a miscarriage. This is a very aggressive thing. It was not my idea, but it adds a lot of spice to the movie. So Madison, because every once in a while, you know, we do pre-production. I let the actors have a lot of freedom. I want to hear, you know, what they have to say. Some, you know, I want their ideas. I want to see what they're trying to get with, because, you know, there is no wrong idea. It's just, let me pick the one. Give me the options to pick the one that I think is the best. Every once in a while, we get a really, really good idea. This was one of the better ideas we've had in a long time. So where did you come up with this idea to have a miscarriage? Also, I think Andrew told me this, and I was like, she's okay with that? Because this is kind of like a crazy thing, especially in something that's a super realistic documentary. So,
Dude, she was so excited. She's like, "Do you like call me at work?" You like texted me that you had to call me to talk to me about it.
Because it was just hard to, like, I didn't want to type that out. I don't know.
So, yeah, go into your characters. Like, how did you come up with this idea? What was the thought process to get in here? Because it really amps this movie up on a whole nother direction.
Well, the first thing that kind of made me think of something really dark is that because we as actors in this got to come up with a lot of ideas and help you figure out or just like figure out things for our characters to go through throughout the script. And something that I wanted to do was also test and kind of go a little bit outside of my comfort zone and do different things with my acting than I've done before. So I was trying to think of events where I could play extremely distressed and extremely distraught and terrified and scared, and I was just thinking of ways that or I was thinking of events that a character could go through where they would get to those emotions. And then I also knew that we needed some sort of event to happen where his descent into madness could also be kind of a red herring.
Yeah.
Throughout, like a red herring theme. Yeah, throughout.
Because you think it's because of the
miscarriage. Because we think it's because of that. Because of the miscarriage. So I had to think of an event that, one, I would be excited to test my acting abilities in, and two, an event that could work as a red herring of why he's going into his descent into madness. So that was kind of my thought process there. And I know, obviously, with something like a miscarriage theme in a movie, that can be really heavy for a lot of people. And if you don't tell that story correctly, that could definitely cause some issues. And I personally have never gone through anything like that. So we really wanted to make sure that this plot point wasn't going to offend anyone, and also we would do it in a respectful way.
Yeah, I mean, we handled it that was my first thing, was like, we want to do it in, a respectful way. We want to make sure that this, number one, that you're comfortable with this, that everybody's comfortable with it. That was my first thought. But then, the more we kind of did it, and it really isn't, it moves the story forward a little bit, but it's done in a way where it's focused more on the actors and just the aftermath and their grieving process and understanding that.
Yeah.
So I thought, I did want to make sure that that was, done correctly, and we gave it, what it needed to do. And it turned out, really well. I thought we really handled it. It gave you guys more depth. And one of the crazy things with this movie is it's pretty straightforward for just a mockumentary. There's so many themes in this one, especially for, Andrew's character, of like losing his parents and then wanting to start a family and then having to go through a loss again. And all the themes that started to come out, and we have a lot of cool themes like this to play around with. It makes the movie so much better, which I never really, like with Devil's Hostage, we have very clear themes. I always try to have very clear themes for all our movies, but with a mockumentary, I was like, it's a fake documentary. But now you're starting to see him come in there. And I think it's a testament to you guys. You guys did a really good job of, bringing these themes out and these characters out. So let's talk a little bit about the pop scares, because, obviously we need some scares in this. We need to have some stuff. And one thing that, as this, indie studio that we do pretty well is pop scares. The audience is expecting horror stuff. I can't give them a lot of horror in this. Like, it's very driven on, heavy scenes with the actors. It's a very character-driven movie, which is me stepping out of our comfort zone, because the one thing I can control, basically, is the pop scares. We have the pop scares in there. The audience expects pop scares. So it's like, how do we kind of get at least some freaky things to happen in here? So the ones I want to talk about, my favorite ones was just watching you guys go through the house. The door was open. They heard weird knocks. Talk about that, because they had to film it themselves. I wasn't there. I was in the corner in the darkness. And they go do it and then kind of give me the stuff. So what was it like blocking yourselves, directing yourselves, and kind of making these, little sequences happen that we needed, because they were plot points that were tension, that were scary, that the audience expects in a horror movie?
Well, I mean, I think we were both kind of lucky that Madison and I both are lovers of horror films.
Yeah.
And we could kind of, and just making movies, and I feel like we can kind of figure out, how to frame up a pop, or like the suspense of the slow pan or something,
right?
So it was really a lot of fun doing that, honestly, because because it's gonna be cool to see those moments in the film. Because you're like reminded, like it's like, oh shit, this is like an actual a scary movie,
Yeah.
And there's just like wild moments, like they're just so cool, and they're like super long takes too, which I like. Like a lot of the sleepwalking stuff is just like 2-minute, 3-minute shots.
Yeah, there's a lot of long takes. And that's what separates this kind of storytelling versus cinematic too, because it's all in one take. You can't really, there's no room for messing up,
Yeah. Yeah, and the hard part about filming those things is just, giving the phone back to you and being like, do you like it?
Yeah. Do you like it? Or like we would, at the end of the day, when you would come back to the Airbnb and we had come up with so many ideas while you were gone, and we're just like, watch it, watch this. Like, we were attacking you. Like, is it good? Do you like it?
And again, I tried to just, for the pop scares and stuff, obviously, I could take a look at that and make sure we got it. But for the most part, I really did not want to look at that footage. And a lot of the footage I did not get to see because I was working with the talking heads. And now going through it and like working with the editor, like it is like I am discovering their footage. Like a lot of that stuff, especially in the last day, where I woke up and I'm like, all right, I just need to give them a huge list of things so they get as much footage as possible. I never saw any of that stuff until just recently, really last Friday. So it is kind of cool to be like, okay, like this is interesting. This is kind of cool. We figure out where to place this. But one thing for you guys making a mockumentary, when I had pitched this idea, we work with quality control, right? So we have to pass quality control. All our stuff is HBO, Netflix approved because pending one day we can get on those platforms, we have to be ready. When I talked to quality control, they said, do not use the iPhone, right? It's not going to work. Don't use it. You're going to get failed from all these platforms. I'm like, well, I'm making an iPhone movie. So they're like, all right, well, here, we'll give you this stuff. So we changed all the settings in the camera. If you guys are making a mockumentary, all you have to do is change your frame rate to 24 frames per second. That iPhone is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It has all the quality stuff. For the most part, if you shoot in the ProRes, it'll work. But I have had no problem with the MP4 or whatever the other codec that they used on this one that saves a little bit more space. I sent all this footage because they recorded this. I think it was like day 1 or 2. I sent it to quality control and I got on the phone. I'm like, is this going to pass? Because if it's not going to pass, I'm going to cut this movie because I'm not going to make any money off of it. And you can shoot an iPhone movie and upload it and be 100% fine. There's not a problem. I know that 28 days, years later, guys did it, but they also kind of cheated because they had these crazy rigs and stuff.
Yeah, that was like, it was like they were using a camera at that point.
In 2025, you can make an entire movie with a phone, and there's not a problem. It'll get on all major platforms. There's no issues whatsoever in there. Audio is fantastic. I haven't balanced the audio, but I don't really want to balance the audio because anything that I'm going to do as far as a color grade or anything like that is going to take away from the realism. So, again, there's no reason. You don't need a Blackmagic. You don't need these big cameras. You don't need all this sound equipment. Take your phone and go make a movie because you can do it. There's literally nothing stopping you from doing that. That's exactly what we did, minus the talking heads, which obviously comes from my background of making commercials. But for the most part, those are super easy. You don't need the talking heads. You can make a movie without the talking heads. So go make a movie with your iPhone. You can do it. So basically, we did all the pop scares. We started to now get to the point of going to the park. And the park is the inciting incident of this movie, basically.
Oh, yeah. How do I forget that?
So let's talk about something that was just a little bit when, Andrew and Madison were talking about, making it feel realistic. We started the scene where the pregnancy is revealed, and it was just a little too cinematic. We had it on the ground, and I think everyone kind of, felt that. So let's talk about through that because that scene turned out really, really well. But it's one where, all right, like this is not like, it was just felt a little blocky. It was just, the trope of putting the camera down. Talk us through that one and how we kind of did it. And then what we started with and what we came up with at the end of that, that scene. Cause it turned out really, really well. It's one of the movie, but it was one where I was like, oh, okay, we have to finesse this one a little bit.
Well, that was a tough just scene in general to kind of figure out because that's also another serious conversation that we're having. And why is it being filmed?
Mm-hmm.
That is always the question of this entire shoot was why are we filming? And figuring out realistic, mixed reasons for that.
Yeah, and that was a huge thing Andrew and I worked on. It was like, why is this being filmed? We need a reason for this.
And we just kind of settled on, they're celebrating their little anniversary thing. Joel's busting out the champagne, he's a little drunk.
Right.
He's the guy's camera now. He's like filming his girlfriend, blah, 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 trying to get her to do a shot. And then, the conversation happens.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of throws the phone down without thinking about it. And I haven't seen this footage yet. So I don't even know what it looks like. If it's just pointing at the sky or what, but
it's pointing towards the trees. But I'll tell you what really is cool about this scene is it allows you to kind of use your imagination because they're having a very, intimate conversation, very intense conversation, but you're not seeing them. But it's all told through the vocal stuff, which I thought was kind of neat. So I thought you guys did a pretty good job on that one. But let's now go back to a little bit of the special effects stuff in there, because now we're getting to the point of things are getting bad, pretty quickly. So, we'll start with you, Madison. As he's starting to lose his mind, essentially, what was your character motivations, or what was your thinking of all right, I have to ramp this up a little bit. My panic needs to be a little bit more. Explain your thought process as we're heading towards the climax of this movie.
Yeah, Rachel is very empathetic to Joel and just in general. And I feel like for most of when he is having his descent into madness, she's just trying to rationalize it and she's trying to not be upset with him and be really understanding. And there was never a point where she truly wanted to get out of the situation because she loves him so much. So she was trying to find any way she could possibly stay. So instead of me having Rachel come to it with thoughts of like anger and annoyance and frustration, it was more like
Yeah.
and concern for your well-being and wanting to help figure it out. So curious as well. And there's some big scenes with special effects and blood where, you know, my character is at her last straw now. But instead of her being at her last straw with the relationship, she's at the last straw of not having answers as to why Joel is feeling this way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty big thing especially because our relationship is so fresh and new, Rachel staying through all of this is going to be something where the audience is going to be, why is she staying with him if he's being this aggressive to her? Like, why is she staying in this relationship? And that goes back to the beginning of our character development and why we're in the relationship. And yeah, it all really ties together.
Yeah, I think she just brought up two really good points that I just want to highlight. Number one is that in a lot of indie films that I watch and a lot of found footage movies, the first instinct is to get mad at each other. Everyone's mad at each other. Everyone's just pissed off.
It's true.
And it's tough to root for your characters when everyone's complaining and just yelling at each other constantly. It definitely is an indie film thing. I think it's just a little bit on the actors as far as like they come into the scene. It's like, what do you want from this scene? What do you want from this scene? And it's like contrast is easy to get out there.
Yeah.
The problem is that it makes your characters really unlikable. And we struggled with this for a lot of our movies. And it's something we kind of, really kind of trying to work on. I thought you guys did a really, really good job of, this guy's going through something really bad and you both are going through something really bad, but it's coming from a place of empathy and you're trying to help him, right? And it goes back to the pre-production work that you guys did to make your characters love each other. Because if you guys didn't look like you loved each other, then basically there would be no reason for your character, Madison, to stay there. So I think those are two really good things that you guys did, and it turned out really well in the movie. I think you can definitely see the reason she's staying there is because she cares for the person. If the person that you're having a relationship with is having mental issues, you're going to care for that person. You're not just going to peace out. And I think that's a horror trope that, why are they staying here is always the horror trope there. And I don't think it's going to be an issue with this one because I think you guys did a really, really good job on that. So my next question for Andrew is that, when sometimes we're trying to figure out scenes, basically he had one where he was having a seizure in front of a laptop and he just couldn't get it done. So, I had a step.
Okay.
What was it like seeing the director come in and just basically outperform you in a scene?
Let's roll a clip.
I'll put it in there.
Hey man, I think it's gonna turn out great. All right, I trust you completely.
I have it. I can pull it up right now.
No.
So yeah, go through that one, Andrew, because that was an interesting clip.
Yeah. It was. We were trying to figure out more ideas of, more scenes of me kind of losing it, and also why they're being filmed. And so we thought of the idea of he's just kind of making a little kind of video log for himself after he's been down these rabbit holes of trying to figure out what's going on. He's doing a little voice, or not voice, like a video log basically, and saying like, this is what's going on, this is what's going on. He kind of breaks down a little bit because of his guilt for her and like putting her through all this. And then we had the idea that he should go full Hereditary and just bash his face into the desk. And then, not only that, then have a seizure.
Right. We needed something pretty extreme where we would have to call the police.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, we had to figure out how to do that safely as well.
Right.
And,
And respectfully.
and I just couldn't get it down. So I had to watch the director.
I came in there. I showed him how it's done, but it's kind of weird because when you're making these movies, you have these weird coincidences. And I think literally the day before we started shooting, I was just going on YouTube, just watching stuff, and there was like an interview of Ari Aster on how they did that scene where he smacks into he's in the classroom and smacks into the desk, and they had the actor saying like, "Hey, I will smack into this in real life to get the shot." And Ari Aster's like, no, we don't want that. But then they're like worried about like how it's going to actually work. And this is something we learned that actually works really, really well. You just do it in reverse, and you just reverse the clip, and it looks, because if you shoot up really quick, basically it looks like you're going to smack just as hard. Now we had to do a little bootleg editing on an iPhone to do the clips to make sure it like worked basically. Oh, yeah. But it did, and it looked really, really good. And it's, again, another little scene in there. And honestly, because I'm editing the Echoes of Evil movie now, we have a clip where she stabs the person in the neck, and we would always, you're always going slow into someone's neck, even though it's a foam knife and you can't really do anything. There's just like, you don't want to punch an actor in the neck. So every time it's like that, it looks fake. The one I used was her just going backwards. I just reversed the clip. So for your filmmakers out there, that works. Reverse the clip. It works just as well, and you don't have that hesitation of the other actors. So then, Andrew, we're getting into the final part here. There is a special effects with Tegan of basically, a stomach stab kind of scene. I couldn't be involved in this. I was sitting on the chair in the room, and how did you do that? Because you basically have a prosthetic attached to you, and you have to hit your lines and do your whole thing, and you have the camera. So it's basically a one-man band at that point. How did you kind of go through that? Because that was a pretty intense scene.
Yeah, that was probably my most nerve-wracking scene to do, because like I'm also dealing with prosthetics, and like, the makeup artist isn't in the same room with me, like, making sure the lighting's right, or making sure like I'm getting, it's like, it's also like, if I mess up, do we have to like reapply this? Like, are we screwed? Like, well, how many takes can I do this in before it starts looking weird? And so, yeah, I mean, I think it was one of those things, like, it was kind of I think we just got it on that second take.
Yeah.
That I was like so happy with, that I was like,
it was so good.
Like, I don't even want to try again, because like,
yeah.
Like, we're both just like on it in that one. When she came in at the right time, we had a little moment. Mm-hmm. We showed that he's a bit threatening with the scissors, so it's like, scares her a little bit.
That was so good. And Andrew actually gave me that note.
What?
You said when you have the scissors out that maybe I should, like, you were like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
You're holding the scissors.
Yeah.
And you were like, maybe she should play it this way a little more.
Well, because it's like, yeah.
Not, fearful that you're going to stab her in a way, but kind of insinuating that, because I would never think that you would actually stab me. But because I've seen and watched your ascent into madness, at this point, I'm like, oh, I don't know what he's like right now. I just
stabbed myself, so.
Exactly, and you just stabbed yourself. So that was a really good thing that Andrew did.
But yeah, that was the hardest thing, I think, for me, to be completely honest. Just in terms of getting it right, because there's so many things you can mess up.
No, yeah. Man, it turned out really well. I really like that. I think Tegan did a really good job on that one.
Tegan, so good.
So the final day of shooting, I had to go work with the Talking Heads again. Again, this is like 2 movies. Like, I work with the Talking Heads. I have to be on them to tell the story and move the plot. And then basically Madison and Andrew did their own things. And I never really got to watch a lot of this footage, which is why I hired them, because I trusted them to, basically get this done. I just came up with a whole bunch of different things to try and get you guys to work. I never thought you'd get through all of them, and you did. So what was that last day like? Going through all that stuff to just try and get as much as we possibly could, in the limited time that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that was an interesting one too, because that was the first time that I think the first day that we were completely alone doing all this.
Right.
Like usually, at least you guys are in the other room or something, or like you can check it. This one we're just completely like all on us to get anything we can possibly get, and hope that months later when you watch it, it's like good.
Yeah.
It's like it's there's kind of a lot of pressure, honestly. But it was fun.
It
It
was.
was fun just kind of trying to push through all that and like find the moments.
Yeah, and we got through your list and some, I feel like.
Yeah.
We kind of added a lot of scenes that we just felt like we should have in there.
Yeah. And also the filming style is so funky that like it was nice not to have like a crew watch you be like, all right, action. Hey babe, what's up?
Yeah.
Like it was just easier to kind of like not have everyone like watch you be so weird like making this movie.
Right. We cooked though. We're chefs.
I mean, I've seen some of it. Like that's the other thing is like I've just started the surface of what you guys have done, because the editor's going to pick the ones that he thinks are the best, and I'm going to go through and like really go deep dive in the footage. But what I've seen so far has been great. So we'll kind of wrap it up here. So Madison, what was your favorite scene filming in this movie?
Oh, interesting.
Ooh, I have to say, for me, because I just love spooky, scary things, is the scene that we shot when we heard the skinwalker in the woods.
Oh, yeah, we heard that scream in the woods.
Yeah, there was a skinwalker out there, I think. And that was crazy because it was after Andrew and I just filmed our insane screams, which come at some point of the movie. I don't want to spoil anything, but we had to scream bloody murder. And I have been working really hard on learning my horror scream. It's a skill that you seriously just have to build up from doing a bunch of horror movies, because where can you practice screaming? You can't, like, that's not something you can like practice until you're really on the day, like on set, where you have full permission to just scream like that. So I think that was my favorite one, because we got to really just belt it out and scream, and that's always really fun for me. And then afterwards, we heard something spooky in the woods. So both of those things made it really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of underplaying how scary this really was. You guys to let you know, it had rained. So we went out to where we shot the Cold Grave movie, right? And that woods is called the Doppelganger Woods. Like, that is what it is called. We had made it a joke as we were making this movie that, we had inside jokes and keywords with each other in case you ran into a double, which one is who. But it's just a joke, right? So we go out here. It's rained out, so it flooded. We couldn't even go all the way out there in the woods. There's nobody else camping there. Like there was like people walking their dog or something in the back. Nobody else should ever be in those woods, because you can't go in those woods because it's flooded. So Madison and Angie start screaming, as they do. We hear a scream super loud, just as loud as Madison belting out from the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And that person is either trapped from floodwater, or I don't know what was going on there, but there shouldn't have been anybody in that campground. And we got out of there real quick. Every movie, there's like something where I'm like, I don't believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. And then we hear something like that, and I'm like, I don't know what was going on with that, but I'm not going to stay there to find out. And we were out of there pretty quick. So Andrew, what was your favorite shot or favorite scene in the movie?
Probably honestly the picnic table scene, honestly. I think that was like it, which is like so annoying to me, because like I've done so many movies outside in the woods that I feel like I'm sick of it. And my favorite one here was the one that was outside in the woods.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just really liked that scene because it like I think it was our most emotional scene in the movie for sure. And
So that's when I revealed to Joel that I was pregnant.
yeah. and it was really cool to kind of like play around with how he reacts to that and how he's handling the situation.
Because we've only been together for at this point,
Yeah.
I don't know if a full timeline has been extremely established on the editing side of things, but at this point in our minds, it had been 6 months.
And like now that you even say it, like I think it's even cooler just to know that it's just audio, and you're just looking up at the sky, which symbolic maybe.
Symbolic. Yeah, a
You know?
little foreshadowing.
The themes come out as you kind of go through it. No,
Oh, dude, you could like edit just a little thing that goes during that conversation, during that shot.
there you go.
Maybe.
I'll see if we'll work with the VFX guy.
But there was honestly so many fun scenes. Like I could list so many, like when we kept messing up our takes, well, me, and when we were filming us just like cooking in the kitchen as like people do in a relationship, and we just like,
Yeah.
kept saying my own name as she was my best friend. So we kept messing up, and it was just really funny because Dylan and Tegan were there too, and we were just all cracking up because I could not get it right. And also just behind the scenes, like we have some fun behind the scenes videos of us just like having fun at the Airbnb.
Yeah.
Those were just really fun moments. And I think something interesting about working with you and working with DBS is that both times I've lived with you guys during the duration of filming, and you don't really do that normally. So that was it was really fun because we all literally were with each other like 24/7. So
Yeah.
DBS, you don't get a trailer. You get a room. You get a room to bathroom.
and yeah,
My haunted.
and a haunted room, potentially with ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a fun project. It was definitely interesting. It was a little stressful for me at first, but once I started to see how it was going to work, it was nice. I mean, it really, like, there wasn't a lot, because usually I have to direct. I have to basically have the camera with me, and I have to make sure we have a movie, because if we don't have a movie, then we're basically cooked. So I have to play producer first, basically. With this one, it was just like, all right, like, let's just see where this goes. It was a very organic experience, a lot of low stress, but I think some of the acting, was some of the best we've had. It really was natural. Again, I was like burnt out of the found footage stuff, and it was a really, really cool project, especially coming off of Devil's Hostage, which was just an absolute beast of a film. To turn this around that quick was great. And, guys, honestly, I'd recommend it to filmmakers. It's an easy project to get, a win, to get something uploaded. You could do a lot of cool stuff with this one. I was talking to Chris, who was the documentary guy in this one. I was like, there's nothing stopping us from doing a Jersey Devil one, or, go through all these cryptids and stuff. It's a very easy formula to do. And my only concern was, were people going to buy this? After the success of Last Cabin, I mean, we have offers already for this movie, and I've showed them cell phone footage. Like, what? Like, I was like, what world do we live in where I'm sending these guys cell phone footage, and we're getting offers to, for distribution for this project? That's really, really cool. But I do think that you guys basically cooked on this one. I think if that Joel and Rachel did not care for each other, people wouldn't understand the relationship dynamics. They would think Rachel should just leave. Him following his descent to madness would not make any sense. So you guys did a fantastic job on it. I think you really kind of are the glue to this stuff. It keeps the story going. I think we got way too much footage, but at the same time, that's a good problem to have. So any last thoughts, Andrew, on this project? How is this a little bit different? Any kind of pointers to actors who might be working in a mockumentary? Any last words of advice to someone who might be doing a project similar to this?
Yeah. I mean, this was a lot of fun, man. And it's also kind of cool to be the kind of guinea pigs for a DS first, in terms of style. And yeah, I don't know, acting tips for mockumentary. It's just every instinct you learn on camera acting, just throw it out the window.
I mean, honestly, that's
Get some, gotta get your improv up, I guess. Like, I don't know, it's hard to really.
and I mean, that was like part of the thing, doing the found footage and cinematic stuff, I did not want to have a role in this. Like, I just did not, because it would have been like if I'm trying to tell the story, then it's fake. Because I'm trying to tell you guys how to do it. It's much more organic that way. I think it worked out. And also, it's nice because I just don't want to do anything. I just really don't want to do anything. I want to sit in a chair in the dark and have them come up to me with the phone and be like, "Is this good?"
Okay. So I just want to say thank you, Brendan, for having me back. I had so much fun, and this one's going to be a really good one. I loved being able to try something new. I've never done anything like found footage before, so I'm excited and grateful that my first time was with you. My advice for filmmakers who want to make found footage movies or just movies in general is the only thing that's holding you back is your mindset, and if you don't do it, no one's going to come do it for you. So if you want to do it, do it. I think you can find a way. The only thing that's holding you back is your self-doubts.
All right. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before I close it out?
I think that's it. This was so much fun.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. We're wrapping up here, but I do recommend this to filmmakers. I think it was probably easier than a regular found footage movie. You can control the talking heads. You can edit the talking heads. Editing is probably one of our better skills as an indie company. And then you just got to find two really good actors like Madison and Andrew and, let them cook basically and get a lot of footage and just kind of edit it together. You'll find out whether or not we can sell this thing and, we can get this distributed. But as of right now, everything looks really, really good. Strange Harvest was just in theaters. I watched it with Andrew when he came over to my apartment a couple of weeks ago. Thought it was pretty solid. Check it out. But if that movie's in theaters, I don't see why ours couldn't get in theaters as well. I think it's a really cool concept. There's a lot of twists and turns in there. But it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun that I didn't have to be super stressed on this one. It was a lot of fun watching, Madison and Andrew really kind of take the reins and, kind of see their creativity come out. Again, I didn't put a lot of, restraints on them. I wanted to see what was going on. And I think my advice is to try new things. I never wanted to do a mockumentary because I didn't think it made any sense. I was like, why don't you just make a regular documentary? Well, if you look at the most popular found footage movies the last 5 years, every single one of them, outside of Hell House, the original Hell House, has been a mockumentary. Right? They're super popular. You get the people who want the authentic found footage stuff, and you get the people who like the cinematic stuff because the talking head stuff is beautiful with the 85 lens. If you're take a shot at it, guys, I really recommend it. But this one's coming out probably next year. And I look forward to it. I thank you guys. You're both fantastic. Andrew, it's always a pleasure working on like 20 bazillion projects with you and Madison. Having you back after Devil's Hostage was also a fantastic project. I thought you guys did an excellent job. I wouldn't have asked for any other actors. You guys are fantastic. And we're going to end with that. So good night, DBS fans. Good night, horror fans and filmmakers.
Good night.
Bye.